Welcome to the Grown Up Group. This is the podcast by regular people tackling the world from a Black perspective. I'm here with Victor, Ty, and Jazz. And our first topic of the day is job automation. What do you guys think about it?
So I had to really delve into this one, and I wanted to jump on first because I have the statistic and the numbers, and it don't look really good for us. I got to tell you, I was a little upset looking and reading and researching this topic because 50% of the job tasks and activities could theoretically be automated. And I never knew that. So it's a lot of administrative tasks that's being done that they feel like, you know what? We can basically take it from here. We don't need the administrators, the secretaries, and a lot of the people that go in and actually sit down and scan documents and photograph and photocopy. All of that stuff is going to be, of the future, or is going to be gone. But I look at it like, and I say economic growth is essential to job creation. And I think that's where it really hit me, because I was like, what is our economy? If it's what it looks like today and we are working just with a high percentage of unemployment rates, what does our future look like? I'm really concerned because it's basically stagnant right now at this point. And to see growth, we need employment, we need careers, we need growth. And right now we see healthcare providers are not able to be touched, even though they do use a lot of automated equipment and machinery in their day-to-day. They don't necessarily have, a process, because you need human element in order to take care of an individual. I can't even imagine what that would look like if it was machines. You have professionals such as engineers, scientists, accountants, and analysts that cannot be touched because they have to do their specific job. You have to be able to tell a measurement from a structural beam, etc. Accountants, we know math and numbers is really important. From a finance perspective, IT professionals, because you know what, you can't fix your own bot. Bot can't fix itself yet, knock on wood. Right. Managers and executive, because you need the leadership and you need the direction on where they're going to go and how things need to be mapped out and laid out in workflow process. So also, such as creative types, artists and performers. And when we speak of artists and performers, this is basically their niche. So they can basically go in at a higher rate and cost and be like, you can't recreate my role. So they could ask and demand for more money because they know that these professionals are not able to be touched. So these professions, I'm like, okay, maybe I should switch my job right now today, because it sounds like, I might be one of those people in the actual 75 million or 375 million that it affects. And that is a scary number to hear, because look at the world population. That is basically 50% of employment rates. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Because that is shocking to me, I must say.
Well, to me, it is shocking. It to me, like, I go back to where it's like, what about the human connection? Like, okay, it's cheaper for you to do it, but what about the human connection? Like, we need people to talk to. I don't want to argue with a robot, but I will. Like, I've been in, like, what they say, operator, that's me. I'm going to the phone because I need somebody actually on there talking to me. And then it's like, we're going to be living like like the Jetsons. Yeah. Like the Jetsons. Yeah. I don't want to be for real. We'll be having flying cars, no human connection, it is nothing there. Like, people are about saving money and all this other stuff. Like, to me, it's crazy, which I do get sometimes, some jobs should be replaced with, with bots, because some stuff, I get it. But that right there is like, I want the human connection. Like I said, I argue with a robot in a heartbeat, but I like arguing with a human. Let me argue with the lady on the phone. That's what I want to
do. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm sitting here listening to this, and the first thing I'm thinking of is not even necessarily some of the more mundane things that affect our everyday lives, like self-checkout, things of that nature.
Right.
I immediately go to artificial intelligence, because that is where this is automatically heading. They're going to start phasing out, these administrative jobs, as you said, that is already happening. Try to call your phone provider and see how long it takes for you to get to an actual representative. Or talk to someone who used to work in the call center who now works from home part-time. Those jobs are quickly dwindling, and, it's not going back. We're not going to push the envelope back. It's even going to slow down, but it's still going to go forward. If you guys notice that you have predictive texting now whenever you're on your computers, because the AI is already implemented into what you're doing daily. If you're using Microsoft, you're already using a version of ChatGPT. And I'm not sure if everybody understands what ChatGPT is, but it's basically a free artificial intelligence website which is trying to replace your search engine.
Mm-hmm.
Where it will give you the information. Now, obviously, now it's not perfect. It has been documented that it's well from perfect, but they are perfecting it along the way, and lots of other companies are coming up as well that are also going to lead towards that. And Jazz, I love what you said, the human connection, because that's actually what the writers and actors strike was all about.
Yeah.
Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to phase out writers. Most writers of your favorite shows, or any show in that matter, normally they do a show, they write for a show. It takes about 3 to 6 months. They get residuals from it nonstop. They're trying to send everything to streaming, so there's no, and at the same time they're hiding the numbers so that they don't have to pay these people. So it makes it harder for your favorite writer, to work on something for 3 months, 6 months, and they have to work for another 10 months.
Mm.
Things get harder, and things like that for the actors. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, back when what's the movie? Benjamin Button. Anybody remember Benjamin Button?
Mm-hmm. I like
Anybody
that
remember
movie.
that scene of a young Brad Pitt? That was kind of the beginning of these things where they're de-aging people, and they're paying for likenesses for a lifetime. I believe someone is James Dean. Like James Dean, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this. I could be wrong, but I think his family did sell his likeness or someone of that era, so that they can constantly make those sort of movies about him and get paid. So they don't need the actors anymore. And that's what the actor strike was largely about as well, because they don't want to get phased out also. If you can have a 25-year-old Denzel Washington for the next 50 years, you would take that now over a current Denzel Washington.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, no, I mean,
right. So I'm like,
yeah, you as the audience would want the actual Denzel Washington, but the
right.
studios themselves don't want to have to pay Denzel Washington money. They'd rather go ahead and cut his family a huge check now, so they don't got to pay him more money 30 years from now.
Crazy.
So that's where a lot of this automation is heading. It's kind of phased out a lot of things. And Ty, you said something that was very poignant about people having to basically monitor the robots. It's predictive learning, so it's learning to monitor itself.
Right. Over the course of time.
Yeah, we basically have a soft core version of Skynet. If anybody gets that reference from the Terminator movies, so it's it's going that way now. And first it starts with the without the cashiers, and then it gets drastic, like the McDonald's that you mentioned out there in Texas, which is literally manned by one person and a bunch of robots.
Yes.
And before you know it, your Walmarts will be ran like that. The only real human interaction you will have will be your local stores.
You just made that statement, and I think of all of the, social media outlets that I actually see where, you have a human being standing at a cash register and placing an order, and you have a human connection there, and they're abusive. So, what would a bot, an AI tool, somebody that has no control of emotions or feelings, and if they're attacked or something thrown at them, what is their reaction and what that looks like? So I think when we have these conversations about, the AI and, robots taking over, it makes me feel so aged. You think, like you said, the Jetsons, but as a kid, I was so fascinated by that thought process, because I was like, oh, I want to be in a flying car. Like, why can't I go to my refrigerator and push 2 buttons and a grilled cheese come out? I want that life. That fascinated me as a child, but now being an older adult and a part of this conversation, it terrifies me because I'm still in the job market. When I'm set to retire and they have these conversations, I won't be phased, because hopefully, pray, Social Security will be there for me as a cushion and net, whatever 401k that I built up, will be there as a, blanket to cover me financially. But if I had to go and step into, a job market as someone that's, 60, 70 years old and do a part-time job just to make some earnings, that would be a little scary for me. I would think about those type of, can I deal with something that's animated or automated, and what would it look like for me in the future? And then I think about my mother, and other people are our parents, period, collectively. What do they do when they get to that supermarket, or they can't do or function, based on that thing? Where will they be under attack? Because they get frustrated with computers and cell phones. Could you
They
imagine
phone.
standing in front of them, asking them to execute something and they don't comprehend what's being asked of them? That's the part that makes me a little nervous because I'm like, what is that? To add to my conversation, one of the actual physical and human connections that I will not miss, and I know the AI will do so much more of a better job of tracking me down and finding me, telemarketing. I will not miss those marketing conversations and calls out all throughout the life of my day. And like, exactly, are you, this, that, and the third, and trying to sell me their products and goods, and they just get hung up. So those scam likely. Notice those calls that come through and they just disconnect. That's going to be automated. So then could you imagine just having a phone call from somebody from India telling you randomly that their name is Rebecca and that they're calling you because that's called outsourcing technically, but they're going to put robots in place or the AI tools and functions in place where that phone number will randomly call you however many times a day. God forbid, it's like a glitch in the system. They end up calling you 90 times. That's the type of stuff that I'm a little concerned with because we have no one monitoring and looking at that stuff. That's where I'm concerned. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I dropped that one. Another thing that they said about jobs that could get automated: hand sewers, people that actually prepare clothing. And it's like, I think of all the child labor that's out there. That might be a good thing. So telemarketers and sewers and, taking abuse of the children that's out there in this market, that hopefully will go away. All those companies that we see those documentaries on, I will not name them because I don't want a lawsuit. But exactly those things that you buy that dress for $5, but good and well, there's some girl in the basement sewing it up for, that's 8 to 12 years old. That's a problem. And then the conditions that they work under, another issue, as well as mathematical technicians. That stumped me a little bit. What? I think the geniuses out there are going to find a way to like outsmart that beautiful minded. Like, you guys know that movie. Hopefully they find a way to beautiful mind that. And we're like, you know what? We still need to do our math. And, how are these bots being created if you don't have engineers and mathematics and those things like that?
That's doing it. Yes,
technology and information. So, yeah, I think you still need those things. And tax preparers. I don't think I use the tax preparer in about 10 years. I've done them myself.
I haven't.
Computer, I log in, I put my information, slot A to B, 1, 2, whatever it needs me to fill out. And boom, I got my answer. And hopefully in 3 to 4 weeks, I'm paying somebody or somebody paying me. That's how it usually works. But I'm usually paying them. So I think about those traits that they referenced out there that I feel that, do we really need those people? I know they would be upset hearing that, but the reality is what it is, when it comes to that turn, hopefully that's not the case, but we'll see,
Right. And another thing, who had a concert? I think there's a few people who are deceased. Maybe alive too. They had a concert. Was it Biggie, Tupac, or Whitney Houston or somebody? They had a whole concert.
Tupac. They did a virtual concert of Tupac and somebody else's concert.
Damn Tupac. You meant to tell me I could see him on YouTube or on social media all in general. His real live stuff when he once was alive. So, but instead of that, I'm gonna go to a concert. What is this concert being held at? To where I'm gonna watch a holographic like. Mental to me. I think it's mental because you have to be a nut job to go see that. Like,
Yeah, that seems a bit weird. I don't think that's where the technology is going because that really got painted really bad. That looked really sad to see Tupac out there in these hologram Carl Kanai jeans.
It's like a talk up video. Like what?
Right. No, I don't think I would want to go. I don't want to see that. It's creepy.
It's like, what are you trying to do? We're paying more and getting less. Like these people are going. Why are we paying more to see somebody who's not alive? Like what?
Yeah.
It's to me.
Want to hear something crazy? The animated one I think was the worst because they got him sliding down a slide and doing. I'm like, what is he doing? It was like all of this funky movement around, and I'm like, are they trying to distract us? I'm telling you, it's just crazy. Yeah, I look at stuff like that and I'm like, that's not cute. Keep things original for a reason. We need some authenticity in this world. I just think that by doing a lot of job automation, we lose that authenticity. Like you said, that human connection. Just hopefully, in the process of them doing this, they don't go into a whole different direction and these bots turn or these, AI tools that was the negative light. Because sometimes when they get to my wording, it upsets me. Like, what are they saying for me to put up there as my wording? And that's not what I'm thinking of my thoughts.
Right. Did they say something like, you say, I want to Right. I want to curse my text. I wasn't trying to say. I wasn't trying to say
S,
shot. I was trying to
S.
say shit. But okay, like you messed my whole texting up. I'm cursing somebody out. Oh, I want to type it out. I mean shit. I mean it. I said it. So,
They have a couple of wording that you can't say, because if you say the effing word, they'll say ducking, and you're like, I know,
Right.
no. I go correct it. I go tackle it
I'm
and
not
like, no,
trying
I
to
said
duck.
that. Like, no, I
Apple's
meant to say that.
with me,
I wasn't trying to duck.
Is ducking crazy?
Yeah, I
Right.
wasn't trying to
No.
ducking. I wasn't trying to ducking. I wasn't trying to duck. No, I
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah.
Right.
It's
What
funny
I meant.
because exactly. It's funny because when I was in my seventh and eighth grade teacher, and that was years ago. Okay, so we
Right.
ain't going to say how many years ago,
Right.
but she said in the near future, computers are going to take over everything. So you guys need to start learning how to do
Yeah.
computers.
Yeah.
And every time I think about job automation, I think about how much we have to use computers. I'm like, this lady was right. And this was like in the 90s.
Right.
She said this. She was right. Even like what Jazz said about you want that human connection. Even when I'm going to the doctor, sometimes I'm not seeing a doctor. I see the person at the front desk or whatever, but I'm on a
Let me
Zoom with a doctor
let me
and I'm
tell
telling
you.
her my symptoms.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to cut you off. I'm in the hospital. I
Um,
forgot why I was in the hospital. What happened? Blah blah blah. They're like, "Oh, the doctor gonna come see you in a few minutes." I'm like, oh, "Okay." And here come this future. Go, I see this fucking robot roll in my room
yeah, they
with his
rolled
picture
the
on it. I said, "Am I paying you to be at home? When you're off, I need you to be here, sir, to check my wound. I need you to be here to look at it." Like
Oh,
you, a
wow.
whole robot to my, oh, doctor will come in to see you in a few minutes. I'm like, okay, cool, bet. And I see the screen coming, the little robot coming to the room, and the screen turned my way, and I see the man on it. I'm like, I know you fucking lying. Lying.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I want him to touch me. I want him to check me or whatever.
Yes.
You can't tell what's going on with me through a Zoom call.
Right.
But then here go the nurse. She did a vouch for us. I'm just like, I mean, sometimes the nurses
Yeah.
more than the doctors or whatever. But
Right.
I'm used to this doctor physically touching me and saying what's wrong with me and things like that. Even when I'm going
Right.
to the supermarket, I don't want to ring up my own stuff.
And
I
not
don't
just
want
that,
to
Something
do
what if
that
I'm
big smile
injured?
on my
What if I'm
face like that.
handicapped?
Go ahead. I'm
that.
sorry.
I'm gonna cut you off, but what if I was injured or handicapped? Will they be able to, how's that gonna work out?
Right, right. You still got to sit in your wheelchair and ring your stuff up.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
just
I mean,
I hate it.
that is where things are going. I mean, we literally can't push back, and is that it's no different from way back in the day when we had elevator operators.
Oh
It's so
yeah.
Right.
I think back to my grandfather not wanting to use the ATM.
Mm.
Now you can't fathom having to go to a teller for your money. You need a quick $50. You don't go stand online.
Right.
You don't go to that
Right.
ATM.
It's
But that
convenient.
ATM,
Yeah.
the ATM's the reason why there's not a teller at every window. They're not needed.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
So it's about advancement and preparing for the future. And making sure that we're fortunate that we know this is coming, so we're actually ahead of the curve as a society.
Mm-hmm.
For other generations, they kind of would just smack with it. Boom, new thing. And they're like, oh, cute, new thing. They didn't think
Right.
about the thousands of people and the hundreds of thousands of people that are going to lose their jobs.
Right.
Right now, if you go into an automotive plant, any of the few that are left in the U.S., it's
Right.
half the size it was 40 years ago.
Mm.
Most of it is automated. There's not a bunch of people on the assembly line. There's somebody watching the computer, a couple of people on the assembly line, a couple of people at the end, people making inspections, make sure the computers work, bing, bang, boom. That's pretty much it.
So then I have a question I want to pose. What happens to the economy? What happens to our bills that we need to pay? What happens to unemployment rates when they go skyrocket from these job losses? What happens when we're at, a 40 percentile of of unemployment rates? What does that look like for us? What does our future hold when we have so many things that we need to still maintain and take care of? As far as bills and responsibilities, and the housing market is so much higher than what it was when we were back, 90s, 2000s, even today. Like, you see a property that you were in, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's, double the price. What happens to it when we can't afford to live. When we can't afford to live, what does that mean? What does it look like? What does our economics look
We're
like?
being
That's
forced. We're being
scary.
forced. We're being
Yeah, I
forced
mean,
to.
We're
honestly,
definitely.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, my bad.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that, we have to adapt. We've been in
Right.
this gig economy for at least the past 9 years. This is something that started really under the Obama administration, his
Mm.
second term, and it kind of got, souped up once we shut down for the pandemic to where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
we know those jobs aren't coming back.
Right.
Real estate's going to take a major hit because more and more people eventually are going to be working from home. So there's no reason to have all of these skyscrapers.
Right.
You're going to have to
Mm.
convince people to come to work. And if you're already wiping out their jobs, it's going to be harder to convince them to want to sit in that office for 9 hours, and you'll have a shrinking workforce, unfortunately. The generations after us are going to just have to learn to adapt, as our
Right.
generations did before them.
Mhm.
It's about, for us in particular, we know it's coming. We weren't blindsided like the previous generations. We know this is coming.
Right.
You mentioned being in a supermarket and wanting to talk to somebody. I've seen places in other parts of the globe where they have, people, they have machines just roaming the supermarkets, asking if you need help. And if you attack it, it lets off an alarm. Somebody comes to remove you from the premises. So those particular jobs aren't going away.
Right. Yeah.
So
Mm.
throw something at one of these machines if you want, and you'll be escorted off the premises and likely charged with a misdemeanor.
And that's
Right.
crazy.
The
Yeah.
one thing that I do want to say, because you just brought up a very good point, and I actually sat around it and watched this kind of happen. What I saw when the pandemic hit was, a lot of the buildings that were vacant and empty, and you would have those conversations with some of the owners. They immediately admitted, we can't take this on anymore. Like, we can't take on this financial
Mm-hmm.
burden. They want to
Mm.
give back the loans to the bank and they want to go and run the opposite direction. They want to get out of the New York City market because rent is so expensive. And if you don't have a tenant in that space, they rather walk away from their lease and take a hit and pay you a bulk fee. So that way they don't have to pay it throughout the course of the years. In that interim
Right.
of that conversation being had, what about the conversions to actually affordable housing? So you have those buildings in New York, that skyscrapers that they may actually convert to residential units. What happens when you have to convert it into a residential unit? This is where my construction knowledge kicks in. And I'm like,
Right.
this is going to be something that is going to be under the budget of government agencies to control exactly how those people are being housed and how they're going to put them in, as well as converting. Think about when you see an office building, it's just a big empty box. You could go
Right.
floor for floor. They already have a bathroom on each floor, which plumbing is connected to it. They always have a plumbing wall. So you can easily
Right.
convert it to an apartment just by adding sheetrock and some walls and soundproofing it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. So if this is
Yeah.
where the housing market is headed towards, and we have these vacant properties or these vacant skyscrapers, it may be to the benefit of the people. And if this is the economy that we're headed to, and we know that we're not going to be able to afford it, it will hopefully solve a little bit of the homeless issues that we see within some of these inner cities. I can
Mm-hmm.
only hope that they're the first people that they look at to place. So while we talking about, job automation, my hopes is that they put some type of relief in place for when those people are struggling and not able to keep up with what the changing times of the economy is, as well as
Right.
the housing market and responsibilities and bills. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. So job automation seems to be like really a big issue right now. So I don't know what's coming and how soon, but what are you guys' thoughts on that? How long do you see that?
Um, you've got a good 5-6 years before you notice a considerable change.
I was hoping you said 5 to 6 years. I'm hoping I'm in retirement. No.
Yeah.
Put up a
20,
nest egg and I'm able to
So
tuck myself away.
yeah, 20 years from now will not be the same as 20 as right now. It will not be the same.
right.
Just as far as how, things that you interact with in your daily life, it's not going to be the same. We're not going to have flying cars. We're not going to have, stuff like that. We're still going to need bus drivers and train drivers and things of that nature. That I don't think is ever really going away. Automotive error leads to large and massive lawsuits against companies that they already can't afford. So it's easier to have people to be able to soak that up through the insurance.
Yep.
But like, as far as, your things that you normally watch, as far as television goes, television's already dead.
Yeah.
Television's already dead. Cable is dead. Now subscriptions are your new cable. So instead of paying $300 a month for 200 channels, you're going to pay $300 a month for 30 channels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's where it's going to be. And as far as, those who are in tech, their jobs are going to dry up soon too. Their jobs are already starting to dry up. A lot of those, those lower level, like coding jobs, those are gone. Those are going to be gone really fast because ChatGPT can do it.
Yeah. I agree.
So that stuff's going to be gone. People who do research for law firms, things of that nature, those jobs are going to be gone.
Okay.
Because these, AI programs are going to wipe those jobs out.
Yeah. So what jobs are safe? What jobs will be safe?
Police officer, fireman,
Healthcare, definitely
healthcare. Healthcare is relatively safe.
Management, educators.
Right.
Yes, for now.
Yeah, educating is relatively safe, but I don't want to get off into a tangent, but I'm definitely afraid of what our education system is going to be because it's going to be a lot of people who already are on their second and third and fourth career trying to teach your children, and they haven't been around children in 25 years. So now you want to put this person that's used to working with adults 8-9 hours a day around a bunch of third graders, and that's not a healthy situation.
No,
I agree with that.
But it's going to be an interesting time. So we
You actually see that now. Stuff. That's the scary part. You actually see that now when you see people in their third career and they're sitting around a bunch of children. I actually have an associate that converted to being a teacher, and I was like, how? And they're like, oh, I got a degree. Not in that, like, but just because they have a degree,
right? Degree.
And I'm like, they have the patience of a tick. You think about it, but I'm like, there you go. We'll look to see what that brings in the future. That should be very interesting. I want to say that you have developers, that's also a career. You have things that, from the real estate industry that won't be touched as far as development. You have manual employees because we need plumbers. We do need our maintenance people. That's, going to be a hands-on job. You just can't have a robot come in your house and fix your plumbing or could, do a whole back of your dryer system. It's not going to happen. So you do need some laborers. You need some type of, service individuals. I say our blue collar workers should be relatively safe, but we shall see.
Right.
Most of them should be safe if they're willing to take a low enough wage.
Yeah.
So the jobs that aren't safe, like, what happened to them people? Will they be forced to like retire at such an early age, or exactly?
So while Kenny said 5 to 6 years, my belief is this 10 to 15. So when I looked at, and I did my research through Oxford, because I always go to Oxford. I don't believe anybody unless it's Oxford, because universities, they study, they practice, and they throw money at the problem, right? We do know that. So I wanted to actually just go through a couple of numbers and see exactly what these predictions were. And, they say roughly about 10 to 15 years. 10 to 15 years, and engage that because a lot of the people will be retiring. A lot of people will be looking at, changing a career or doing something that's not as hard labor intensive at that time, because they feel that they, given their stripes already to their industry that they're in respectively, and they want to go off and, do something that's more peace of mind to them. So they said within 10 to 15 years. And I like that number because I was like, I started doing the math. I'm like, okay, 35. If you look at 35 and you're like, good 15 years on it, think about that. 10 to 15 years, you'll be at 50. You're about to set to retire in another, depending on the retirement age, 10 years, it changes. So I'm like, be pushing it back retirement age to 65, knowing that time, and then you'll be working at some part-time job. You think they're moving it up?
Age of retirement is 67.
67.
That's the official age of retirement as of today.
Okay. So 67 as of today, but think about it in 10 to 15 years.
It might be 70.
Oh, wow. That's what I said. They're going to push it back instead of pushing it forward. So that's one of the things that I know that is a big concern for me. So I'm like, okay, if you're 35, this conversation to you is still, relevant because
Right.
this is going to be your next 10 to 15 years, and putting in a good 401k or a money market, you might want to look into that so you could do an early retirement and hopefully be out of the clear of getting into a whole job automation, process, and finding out that you're one of the people that's going to be unemployed. That's a high number. Again, I'm going to say 75 million to 375 million. I heard that and I was just a little flabbergasted about it. So just want to make sure people know the statistics out there and what that looks like. 50% of labor jobs, anything administrative, anything that, you're executing, that paper handling, scanning, photos, any of that sort, seems like it's going away.
We're just doomed.
Right.
Humanity is doomed. I'm sick
We're
of
just
it.
doomed.
I'm just looking for the aliens with their technology to come get us.
Right.
The aliens with the technology come get us. Come on now. Y'all listen. Y'all sit back watching us suffer. Come get us. Come get us. Like, I'm sick of it.
They said,
I've
don't
been
worry
praying for
about it.
10
We on
years.
our
I'm like,
way.
someone please come take me. Just the responsibility. Every time I get a bill, I pray for it. I'm like, oh, aliens, where you at? Come get the girl. Like,
Where's the intergalactic war they told me about on TV since I was a kid?
Right.
What else is Star Trek?
Right.
Exactly. Like, that might not be a
Anything.
bad thing to be up there.
At this point, everything else been happening. Why not?
Our topic for tonight is high sentencing. What's too much for petty crimes? What's too less for high crimes? You guys take on that?
Well,
Y'all go first.
as someone who would normally be targeted for said high sentencing, I mean, it's kind of, the par for the course of this country. I mean, the laws are what they are, but the laws is about how it's applied and who's applied to. So road rage incidents, where things go from something as a simple ticket to, depending on how you interact with the law enforcement. I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. It depends on how law enforcement kind of interacts with you. Depending on what sort of charge you get, the courts kind of back that up. It's an incestuous relationship that they have with each other between, the courts, the attorneys. Everybody works together. Even your defense lawyer works with these people. So they're only going to go but so far. And, especially if you want a public defender, you might as well just pack your bags and be ready to go.
Right.
You're done.
My mother used to call them public pretenders. Public pretenders.
Yeah. And I kind of don't blame them. I mean, you got one person with 200 caseloads.
Right.
You want them to focus on you? Are you that special? You're the one caught up in it. It is what it is. But I will say things have gotten slightly better, being that, our prison system is packed to the gills. It's not feasible anymore to continue to send people to jail for minor crimes.
Right.
So that, and plus you don't make any money off of these people unless you can get them to pay fines. You can't pay fines if you're in jail. You can pay them when you get out, but it's hard to pay them when you get out because you're already stuck as a felon, so you can't vote. You lost your Second Amendment rights. And most jobs won't hire you with a criminal background.
Right.
If these places were forbidden from being able to look into your criminal background, then maybe there's a better chance for people to pay those sort of fines off. And obviously the overshadowing of all of it is racism.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's racism, it's a little bit of sexism, but mostly racism, because Black women do go to jail at a higher rate than other groups of people. No different than Black men. They do get harsher sentences. I mean, I've seen studies where they will literally, that you can get harsher sentences based upon your skin tone. Brown-skinned women such as yourselves could, obtain a harsher penalty than someone of your lighter hue. It's a maddening sort of world. We haven't gotten to the point where people are being able to be brought back into into society as a whole. And that, I think, is a big problem, especially with this large push state by state to legalize marijuana in some cases or some fashions. Which is mind-blowing to me to see people who get locked up for things like weed who now come home and they see that they're selling weed on the corner.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like a spit in the face.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I'm concerned about it from a different perspective because when you look at the drastic change throughout the course of the years, back in 1994, they put a rule in place from the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. It allotted, and they started awarding the states. 12.5 billion was awarded to the states to increase incarceration. So when I hear something like that, how long are they sentencing these people for petty crimes? When I look into things like that, and I want to see the statistics, I see that it quadrupled since 1992 to 2012. And that's basically where the statistic stops because guess what don't want to see. They don't want us to see that. They want to cover that up. So in 1992, it was 12,453. By 2012, it was 49,081 endless sentences, meaning they got life imprisonment. And I mean for petty crimes. And these petty crimes consist of stealing, drug sales, and of that, 3,278 was nonviolent. That tells me right there, no gun involved, no kind of assault, no kind of battery. That is huge. And then 79% of it were drug crimes. So you look at that number and the statistics of how big and drastic, it's all incentivized. It's all based on what can we get for the dollar at the end of the day. And how they may talk about fees, they don't necessarily care about the petty fees from a criminal or a prisoner. They don't look at that. They're looking at what is the state awarding me for arresting. That's why we're a target. That's why we're a target for police officers, because they know we won't have a defense. They know it's hard for us to obtain an attorney. They know that we don't have anyone to actually stand our ground and actually back us on a lot of the things that we're doing. They don't look for the crime footage. They don't look at DNA. That's why a lot of people serve 20 years and then they're getting released because they had someone to back them. And I mean, it took years, 20 years of them going back and forth to court to appeal, to constantly appeal to get free. No DNA evidence, no kind of real proof of what was happening besides word of mouth or hearsay. And then hearsay from people that's probably now deceased or no longer around. You don't even have a valid witness. But guess what? Those people are still incarcerated and serving life sentences.
Yeah.
Of that percentage, 65% is Black. That broke my heart. I just, I gave birth to my son. And I remember laying on that hospital bed and saying to myself, I will die. I will put my life in front of harm's way just to protect him from any police officer, from any crime, any criminal activity. But kids will be kids, and you don't always know what they're going to do, what they get into, especially as they grow and develop. So you hope you give them the proper guidance. But when I look at this statistic, I immediately looked at my Black son, not as much as my Black daughters, contrary to what Victor just stated. I looked at my Black son because I know he has the bullseye. He has a target right there on his back that can easily be hit. There, he's perceived as a threat before he's perceived as innocent. And I know that by looking at him in his 6'4" frame, he could be very threatening.
Yes.
He can be very threatening. But to look at him and say, the drug activity that, a minor may be faced with, or, criminal activity that a kid may be faced with, if he's in the wrong car, the wrong vehicle, around the wrong company, immediately his life is at stake, as well as being a part of that 65 percentage. And that made my heart stop. Of that, I do want to give you guys the other numbers for ethnic groups, because 18% is white. So low.
The lowest is actually the lowest of all.
Well, no, Latinos is actually 16%. So looking at that, the contrast of it is just, who's the threat? Do you guys see that? So if we can't walk the earth and get jobs and live in society, then we're taken out of society and we're given these threats of criminal offenses, some being legally, it is what it is, guilty, because that's what they did and executed by association or fault. I honestly wanted to cry because it hits me that close to home. And I know you all have brothers, friends. The Black male is not protected just as much as the Black female is protected in society. At all. And what scares me is seeing that 65% number. If I am threatened by you and you do not have that money to get a defense attorney and really, really, really have a legal stance, you're in that number. You're in that 65% so easy. And that scares me. What about, the innocence? What about, the safety? What happens to all of that? It goes out the window. I am terrified for our young Black men. I'm terrified for our middle-aged Black men. I'm terrified for older Black men that is faced with that 65 percentage that's sitting in jail just based of drugs. And if you want to say that they're incarcerated due to drugs and it's an actual 79% that's due to drug crime, where's all the pharmaceutical people that put fentanyl and other drugs in place?
Right.
Big pharma.
It is so many people's lives. That's murder. Where are they?
It is.
Walking around free. Penalty with millions of dollars or billions of dollars of fines that they now have to pay out to families. But what is it? Is $1 worth a human life? And what you're giving is not the same equal. To me, it's not. So when I look at this, I really was a little taken back because I put higher sentencing up here and I thought to myself, what does that really mean? And then when I started delving into some of the criminal offenses, I thought murder immediately. I was like, oh, they got murdered someone. They deserve to sit in jail and rot. They deserve to, the punishment that they're receiving. But when I see 79% is due to drug activity, and then we have all these pharmaceutical firm companies out there that's walking scot-free.
They're legally pushing drugs. They're legally pushing
drugs that's ending people's lives. And I mean, such by the masses of numbers is what is really hurting. I'm like, you look at what, fentanyl is, LSD, marijuana, crack cocaine, powder cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, PCP. Mix that all in one pot, you got some fentanyl. Like, and I mean, the drastic numbers of it. If I pulled up the numbers of, drug-related deaths, fentanyl is right there at the top. OxyContin, fentanyl. So what you telling me about crack and cocaine? I've never seen a crackhead, even though I've seen some OD. I've never seen a crackhead die. And you look at that just from taking crack. How crazy of a statement is that? Crackheads live longer than me. Crackheads will be walking this earth perfectly fine. And the strain of it from the 80s and 90s and 2000s have not killed them as fast as fentanyl has. Why the pharmaceutical companies and their owners and the people that supported it, and they have financial backing from the banks and all of these institutions, why are they not sitting behind a jail cell? If you put 79% of my people in and 65% of it being Black, they need to be equally accountable.
It be in it too. It don't work that way. It's sad. It don't work that way. It's like they plan directly on our Facebook.
It really doesn't. It's so unfair. It's so unfair to know that. So I say this to a lot of the younger generations. You want to go stand on a corner and sell something. Don't. Just go get a job, get a degree, and go work at a pharmaceutical company. You'll get the top earning salary, and it'll be worth your investing at. Because guess what you won't get with that? A criminal offense. You won't go to jail. You'll be scot-free. You'll be living your life in a penthouse suite, getting top earned dollars. That's pretty much how that works. It's crazy how that has reversed. I'm so sorry. You could go ahead.
No. I should have jumped in like that. My bad. But I was going to say, or you get a Hulu documentary series about you, like the creators of Oxycontin.
Right.
Absolutely.
And, they don't go to jail because, it's hard to put them in jail when they are getting government subsidies in order to make them. So no, they're not going to put them in jail because then you'd have to put the lobbyists, the lawmakers.
That's exactly what I was going to. Yes. Why they not all incarcerated. Absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy.
So they're not going to go.
Right. Remember, even on that particular subject, but remember, just speaking of high crimes for us, basically, but then for other people, it's not the same. Remember that time? I'm not sure exactly how it went, but the little white boy got drunk. He got a pickup truck. Affluenza, and he killed people on the side of the road. It was like, I don't know how many people he killed and injured and just basically maimed them for the rest of their lives. And that documentary or that story, it made me so mad because it's like he chose to drive drunk. His parents gave him it was crazy. You're a minor with a car. You got alcohol and you killed people. And let you go after he was on bail at one time, out on bail, and then he got to escape and go somewhere. Then the mother had him in a different country or something like that, and ran off with him. It could have never been us. First of all, we would have had no bail at all. We would have been sitting. It would have been none of that. And I forgot how much time he got. It was like no time at all because he ran for a while.
As the judge for Brock Turner once said, and I don't know if you guys know who Brock Turner is. He was the one who the judge said, we don't want this, convicted R word to have to ruin his life. He has a future ahead of him.
Crazy. The madness. Just a change of a shade of a color. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
I want to take it back to Khalif Bauer, how he was
Oh, yeah.
accused of a book bag that never was in his possession, never found it in his possession, put in a jail, thrown down in solitary confinement, and left there for
Yeah.
700
Right.
days.
And he was being abused and
And then
everything the whole time.
the court system failed him, had him sit in jail for 3 years for a book bag that never existed in his present, never knew the person, never was around the person, just 2 black males as a description, 2 young black males. And he sat there over $500 bail, $500.
500.
When I watched that documentary, I wanted to go find his parents. I understand money's tough, but $500 for 3
I
years of
would have got him. I would
insanity
have got him.
and then death, eventual death.
Yeah, because he took his own life.
Yeah. You
Bell's
think nobody got their income
bondsman,
tax?
Bell's bondsmen, you got cars, you got so many things you could use as collateral. I would have been caught starting, GoFundMe. I would have been, calling every
But nobody
relative
cared
that owe me
enough.
$20.
Nobody cared enough to even help him. Nobody
$500
even
is not a
cared.
lot. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
believe what happened afterwards. I believe that they the story what was
After
it
he killed
during?
himself. And the
Because
sad part about it, $3 million was awarded to him, but by then his mother had passed. He has passed, and the brother and the father is the remaining 2 people to collect. But where were these people when $500 was needed? That was
that's what I'm saying. I don't know what happened.
because of it.
Exactly.
3 years. 3 years in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
So that's like the 2004, I believe, when they had the stop and frisk. When they started the stop and frisk law.
Yeah.
Now I read 89% of them that they stopped was blacks and minority, and the other low percentage were of other color. But they the ones who had the guns on them and were let go.
Yeah.
Right.
So you was targeting blacks and minorities, and you were looking for something, and they had good backgrounds. Nothing wrong with them, but here it is. The other ones that you targeted, they had guns in their cars, and you let them go, or whatever. So you out there just looking for black people to arrest,
Right. Right. Like you looking at me. You
Right
worried
there.
about me. What's really going on over there? You worried about me. What about that? That's why you get away with stuff.
Exactly. So the low percentage of the whites that you were looking at is like, okay, so it's like saying every 10 cars, we're going to check one of them or whatever. So that was crazy. 89%.
89%.
Yeah.
I just so happened, and the crazy part with that is, more than likely, a lot of times the white people come to black neighborhoods to buy the drugs and get into stuff. Like, y'all not worried about that. Like, let's take a look over there what they doing. Stop worrying about us. We know we've been monitored. We've been watched. Go over there with them. Go out and watch them.
Well, that's
They
how
got a whole meth lab in their basement. They have a meth lab. You over here worry about me? This little petty drugs is weed. It's a whole meth lab that's gonna blow up a whole city block. But you're worried about me though.
But that's how white supremacy works.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I was going to say. I said, they give us this false pretense, and I'm going to tell you, like I always say, like we fall for anything because they give us this false pretense of this freedom that we have. But are we really free when everything that we're doing, we're guilty before we're innocent, and everything that we do is under ridicule, and we're stripped of it? You could purchase think about all of the lands we've owned, everything that we build, anything that we create, immediately it's taken from us, given back to someone else that's not in our shape, of course, of not our ethnicity, and it ends up like just being a sad case of us not knowing any better. And it's about truly how a systematic process should work and how it could benefit us versus how it can't benefit us, hurts us every single time.
I think we do know. I just think that we have a culture that wants to purposely ignore those who are correct. We have a culture that tells us that we shouldn't necessarily listen to ourselves. And what we get a lot of times is we get flooded with media of people who look like us telling us the things that people who don't look like us want them to say. And then when we get contrarian, we automatically go, oh, well, they're just, they're off on some other stuff. They're not they can't be right because if they were right, they'd be on TV. where it's dominated and controlled by people who don't look like us. But
Right.
when
Now
we see something that says that, oh yeah, it's a black show, or it's a black this or a black that, then we say, well, it's not owned by black people. It just goes in one ear and out the other.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
BET.
it's for the sake of entertainment. It's for the sake of everything being a joke. Everything's funny. Everything's cool. But
Mm-hmm.
the fact of the matter is that we do have a lot. Like, if we as a group, if we as a people, were to really kind of hold these elected officials and these talking heads feet to the fire, which I love this generation for doing so, because they're not the ones falling for it anymore. We've got to push. We've got to push the elders, not the elders, but the elders,
The
out
olders.
the way. They have to be moved because they're the ones that are still holding on to their little breadcrumbs, because they're still thinking about it being 60 years ago or 50 years ago, and the world has moved past that. Their people have moved past that, but since they've lived so good for so long, they can't possibly think of, oh, we have to want more, we have to demand more. They're trying to take it in increments, like this is still the 60s, and that's not the case. Sentencing locally and how it can be affected literally is based upon how you control your dollar and how you control your vote. Make it very simple, but we have to push the elders, and that's what we have a lot in our community. We don't really have a lot of elders. We have very few elders and just a lot of old people who lived long enough to say that I was there and you got to respect me. I didn't do anything. I didn't earn the respect, but I was just there. So you got to respect me because I've lived for X amount of decades. Other groups, they don't do that. They put them old people out to pasture. You don't get a vote no more.
Right.
Because we're going to end up taking care of you, and you can't say nothing and other I'm sorry, and I'm sorry is never good enough. It's never good enough. I'm sorry is never a good enough word. Like I said, this generation, they're fighting those sort of things. And listening to you give the statistics basically from the 94 crime bill, is literally directed thanks to our current president, our current administration. And people want to say you again, well, we should vote him back into office. I'm like, wait a minute, he hasn't atoned for the last thing.
Right. What?
So why would we put him back in? At this point, you hear a lot of younger people say they'd rather watch the world burn. What's the worst that's going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen?
I agree.
Police are still going to attack us. We're still going to be looked at as targets and threats.
Exactly.
Want to be financially and economically disparaged. Oh, you mean the things that are happening now? Oh, our children can be gunned down in the street by law enforcement. Oh, you mean like Khmer Rice? Yeah, we've already done that.
Right, been and done that.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, the only thing that's left to do is to push people out of the way and move them over so that a new crop of
What comes with that though, Victor? What comes with that? When you make a statement like that, push the olders out of the way. What comes with that? You think about the 65%, and I'm going to tell you the 65% that's sitting, right now incarcerated. They're just going to increase that number. Because guess what happens? And then I said something to someone about Martin Luther King. If he was walking this earth today, how proud would he be of us and where we come? And I said, we're still half a generation that's walking around with blinders on, that don't want to acknowledge what our self-worth is and what we can accomplish when we unite and come together. I'll take a perfect example of that by so simple of this group, right? We formed a group, right? And we have all our Black, friends and neighbors and family members. And how many of those actually came and supported the group? We can't do anything collective in numbers. However, if I get an apartment and I have 25 Latino friends, they come move right into this apartment and pay me $50 each, and we'll be ahead in 2 years.
Exactly.
How we can come together as a people is just stop it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, here's the thing, right? You can't allow the people who came into this year with you to go into the next year with you.
Very true.
You have to just let some of those people go.
But I go back to, what does it look like for our future when we can't even support each other on little small things? What about the big things? Like, we're going to collapse as a nation. All of our Black people cannot unite and come and sit in a corner and have the same fighting stance. You talking about the younger people. You're talking about the younger people, but there's a generation in between. There's a generation that's older. So what happens to both categories of generations? Because I want to
Those
say that
who,
I'm in a generation of younger. I look at my son and I see how angry he gets. I see how he has that black man anger. He has things
Mhm.
that owe to me because this is what I did, and this is built on my ancestors' backs. He has that. He has the knowledge.
Right.
I've given him that. But then now what does he do with it? So the next time somebody go to, not hand him money in his hand, he gets outraged and go, F this and F that, and I'm this person and he's
no,
incarcerated. It
no, he
starts with
Right.
doesn't
something
know.
so small.
Yeah, but he
And then
doesn't
because of
react
their
like
rage
that.
and anger,
Mhm.
they don't
Yeah,
want to think and have a clear head. They want to act. And that acting
Right.
is what I'm terrified of. That's why I go back to that 65%. It's not just about me protecting my son from all the people out there. I got to protect my son also from himself as a young black man out
Mm.
here in society dealing with
but
the
here's the
repercussions
thing.
of our past and our ancestors. Think
Here's the
about
thing.
that.
Here's the thing. You remind your son he doesn't have to spend his money there. There's one thing
Right.
that I was very fortunate my mother has showed me when I was a child. Like we were being followed around the store. So what she did was she grabbed a whole bunch of stuff. She walked all the way up to the counter, had to ring it up, had to give it a total. She said, "Let me speak to your manager." And everybody was kind of shocked that she spoke to the manager. She undressed the manager right there and
Mhm.
said, "All right, let's go," and left the store right there. Never went back into that store again.
It's
You have
true.
to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to say, "Oh, you don't want to give me no money in my hand? Cool. I will never buy another thing from you ever again."
But that's
And
one of the olders. Not the kids nowadays don't have that temperament. They want action. They
yeah,
want act out now. That's why I'm
yeah,
like,
but
when you
that's the
speak and
thing.
you say that, I'm like, what are you really telling them to do when you say
What I'm
that to
telling
them,
them to do is
Victor?
respect themselves, control their dollar. You don't
Control it.
have to spend you don't have to spend money at a Chinese restaurant with a bulletproof glass. Just don't go. If you see other people that still want to go, let them go.
Yeah.
Let them. You don't have to
But
save
but
them.
what if that's their only option in the neighborhood? Say for instance, around here, only thing we have is like we say like McDonald's or whatever, maybe one fast food restaurant, and the rest of them are ran by little convenience stores. Why wouldn't you have nowhere else to go? And you
But
have no other options.
do the due diligence. Go somewhere else. There's
How?
one. There's one black owned convenience store that I know between. I would say where the spot from where the spires are, all the way down to North Penn Station. And I make it my duty. If I want to spend money in a store, it's going to be that store.
But it's hard. What
Make
if
it
you
my
don't
duty.
drive, or what if you can't get around? Just what if it's a lot of what ifs in there? Like
I
it's
know
hard,
you have to be willing to make the sacrifice. If you don't want to go to these stores here, spend more, buy more food to spend at home. I mean, to make at home. You do what you have to do. You teach the next generation that their
right?
money is worth something. Their integrity is worth something.
Right,
You know, that their voice is worth something. Their actions have to be that they are not going to tolerate, inconsiderate service.
right,
It's
right.
nothing worth it. It's nothing worth it.
Yeah, it happened to me
And
and my daughter. We was
as far as
uh,
that anger, I understand that anger. You have to teach them how to point that anger in the proper direction. That direction is your self-respect and your self-worth. Oh, you want to treat me like I'm not worth a look in the eye and a thank you? Then fine, you'll never get my business again. In fact, the moment you do that, give me my money back. You know what? I don't want your product no more. You don't got to explain that to them. They don't own. They're not owed it. You don't owe it to anybody. It's your money. It's your idea. You're going to have to deal with these police in the street, and the best way to deal with them is don't talk to them as much as you can. Stop talking to the police. All that yelling and trying to tell them that you know your rights means nothing because they're not there for your rights. They're there to violate you as a human being. So it's simple. They roll up. They have a question. You answer the question. You keep your mouth shut.
right. But I've seen
They
people who
want
do
to say
that, and they
something.
still end up
Let them
hurt
say
some way.
something. Yeah, but they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway.
I
Since
just
it's
feel, oh,
already on the recording, since now everybody has to wear these cameras and they have to keep the audio on by law,
right,
you know, it becomes that person didn't escalate. So at that point, now you committed a federal hate. And now you have to fight with that.
Yeah.
And that's an uphill battle to fight. And that doesn't mean that, we may have the finances to fight it, but it does teach your child is discipline. That way you're not getting into these back and forth with these people. You can't talk to them like you're talking to your friends. They're not your friends. You're behind enemy lines like any other soldier. And any other prisoner of war keeps their mouth shut. They do not argue with their captors.
Right.
They're only looking to escape and get out, and that's the end of it.
So,
That's the end of it.
that's one of the things about high sentencing, right? When I was looking into it, I stumbled across a website and it basically said most repeat offenders or people that commit crimes, be it no matter what it is, they usually tell on themselves. So, if you separate, they divide and conquer. They use that tactic because so many people will fold and so many people start telling if they think their friend is talking, I got to get ahead of this and I got to make sure that I say something first. And then lo and behold, their friend is sitting in the opposite room with their mouth shut and not saying a word.
Yeah.
There's always one person that breaks and cracks. So even in that high sentencing and looking at that, I'm like, what in the world's being said? We got to be smarter than that too, because it's just a trick that they keep reusing and we just keep like falling for the okie doke. It's kind of crazy, but
let me tell you,
and I giggled a little bit because I'm like, for a sandwich, I'll gladly tell you whatever you need to know. And you see them sitting there with some chicken
sandwiches. Right.
Selling their soul on first 48. It's crazy.
If everybody just keeps their mouth shut, we all go home tomorrow.
Yes.
Right. See, I'm gonna say that to say this right, because I got to a situation where it wasn't even like a situation where I actually was even in. Something happened to somebody and they came and got me as if I was the suspect. Like, I know you did it. You had something to do with this. And you come with us. I'm like, okay. I know you're doing your job. It's your job to do. Do it. So I'm sitting there. They came and got me, I want to say 2 or 3 times. They just kept with these scare tactics. If we find drugs here, you're going to jail. If you find guns here, you're going to jail. I say we take me to jail now because you're going to find that, but it had nothing to do with me. But being though I was in that circle of people, it was like they tried to scare me. I didn't even budge. And they did it 2 or 3 times at one time at one police station. They took me down to the prosecutor's office. I'm just sitting there like, and they did all kind of stuff like, give me your phone, look at your phone. People don't have the right to, but you go ahead. They will read text messages out loud. Ask what this means, what that means. I'm like, it means what it means. It has nothing to do with that. But they had the good cop and the bad cop. They tried everything that was not working. I didn't even cry. Even though I had every right to cry and scream and be on the floor, I did not cry. I just stood there like, what do y'all want from me? I'm not a person, I'm not a violent person. Why am I even here? I understand you were doing your job. You have to figure out, get down to the bottom of it. But get down to the bottom of it and know that I don't even have a history of none of this stuff y'all trying to accuse me of. Or even trying to put on me. They have ways of doing stuff. And some people are just not strong enough.
Yeah.
I was just quiet. And the person, they said the most outrageous things to me. It was like they were doing it to me to make me mad, to be able to say something like, oh, I know, like, now that's why I tell you this and that, because I know that I don't know nothing, sir. I know what you're talking about. I don't know anything. I didn't even know anything, but the fact that y'all trying, I definitely don't know nothing now. So now I see what y'all trying to do and it's not working. So I was just quiet. I got hushed. I was like, they drove me home. They were saying the most outrageous stuff to me. I just was like, it was so mean. It was like, wow, you need to be reprimanded for that. But it was like, no, I know what you're trying to do is not working. So yeah, people getting there, start talking. Said nothing. Said nothing. So yeah.
It's just like somebody got to take the bait.
Yeah, and I'm not taking
That's
it.
what
I
they
didn't
try
do
to do.
anything. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not me at all. I'm not talking. I don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Now, I really didn't know what they were talking about, but it was like, you're trying to pin something on me. You make me say something. Oh, it's guns and drugs involved. I'm like, okay, that has nothing to do with me. But your name is in the situation. I'm like, but again, if you look at it, I had nothing to do with anything. But okay, we're gonna play this game. And they play the game of let's hurt her feelings. That's all crazy to her. It didn't work on me. I was just quiet. I was like, and I wanted to get up and get physical. I said they're gonna beat me up in this jail, and I ain't gonna do that because they know I fight them. It's like, okay, they took my phone. They took my phone overnight. You have a charger for this phone? Nope. Find a charger. I ain't give you my charger. Nope. So it was a lot. So I just was quiet the whole time. I'm like, you won't put nothing on me because I had nothing to even do with anything. It was crazy.
And it's so scary how they just blame people for things. Like, I've been in situations like that where you got the good cop, you got the bad cop, and mistaken identity. And come on, I don't look like that person. That's not me or whatever.
Right.
And
you
just trying to put on me, right? Because you got to lock somebody up tonight. You got to show, because you the bad cop. You got to show these rookies like this how we do it out here in the streets, and that's not how we do it out here in the streets.
Yeah.
They even was like, oh, they brought you to this bar with them. Don't they try to set you up? I said, they didn't try to set me up. What are you talking about? Like, they nobody try to set nobody up. None of this stuff that what you're saying is even, it ain't nothing to do even any of this stuff that y'all talking about. It was so weird. It was like, yeah, they try to set you up and have you killed. I said, for what? For what? What did I do? I'm a mother of 4 children. I'm in nobody's streets. Why are you even at my door? They were so big, like, come on, you going with us now. Come on, come on. I'm like, okay. I figured I was coming anyway. Like, and they try to pin stuff on me, and who is this person? Who is the person drug connect? I don't know. What are you talking about? Like, do I look like a criminal? Tried everything. They all these little scare tactics.
I
And
was just gonna say the scare tactics.
yeah, the one black cop made me so mad, and I had to explain to him. I said, "I know it's your job to do, and I know that you're supposed to do this." I said, "But you're looking at the wrong person, and then you're making me look bad in the same breath." Like, bro, you know, come on. If y'all looked up, y'all read my record already. No, I have a criminal background, the first, and you in here in front of these white cops showing your tail, and just y'all, they just went on me so hard. I just was like, breathe, Jess, breathe.
Did you know if you didn't have that cool, calm, collective demeanor, how fast they would have been like, okay, she's in jail. Boom.
Yeah.
And then you know, 3 years go by because the court system is just trash. You could have been sitting there for 3 years.
Yeah, they had me down for something. I'm like, I do not move that way. They was like, we're gonna find drugs and guns in there. You're gonna jail. I said, you could take me now because you're gonna find drugs and guns, but it has nothing to do with me. You said you just find guns, drugs. Yeah, okay, do your job. You going okay, do your job. Y'all gonna look stupid. And he never even apologized to me because they figured out really what was going on. Like 9 months later, they figured out what was really going on. And I'm like, damn, you didn't apologize to me. You made my life a little bit of hell over here. Yeah, you really was like, y'all followed me, y'all were watching, y'all had me under surveillance. I'm like, do kill it? The drug thing? Like it was a lot. It was a lot.
Nothing because they could have just planted something on you. Problem solved.
Right.
That's my biggest fear.
Right. That exactly.
Yeah, and they knew, like, they look at my record. They did everything in their power. It was like, y'all will not do this to a white woman. Yeah, I didn't even get no lawyer because I'm like, I don't need a lawyer. I didn't do anything wrong. But after a while, I was like, do I get a lawyer? Because they really tried it with me. Like, they kept going and going. I'm like, okay, they try to scheme like, well, whoever did this, they're going to come after you next. I'm like, nothing about it. I'm like, I ain't did nothing. The person that did it was a lot. But like I said, I was just quiet the whole time. I was quiet. I was like, this is what they do. When they want to find out something, they're going to find it out. And they found out I had nothing to do with anything. I was in the vicinity of nothing. I was out trying to go to the club. So, yeah.
Victor, I don't know why when you said your worst fear is them finding evidence and planting it on you, I immediately thought of David Chappelle, sprinkle some crack on it. Because
yeah, it's happened so often.
That's what he always say in comedy. It's so hilarious.
It happens so often it's become a joke.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Crack on it.
Yeah, it happens so often it becomes a joke. I mean, because they say they don't have to hit quotas, but they have to hit quotas. Because the fact of the matter is, private prisons need to have a certain amount of people in them in order to continue to get government funding. So you have to criminalize a class of people in order to keep them in there. And if you have someone you're not meeting your quota, we found this one.
Right.
So now you have to fight that. And there's a reason why.
With baby powder.
Yeah, they'll put something on you. The crazy thing is, they can put something on you, and it just be baby powder.
Right.
And you're sitting in the cell in the county for 3 weeks, a month. You know, lost your job. You know, your means of income are now screwed. And it's we finally took it to the lab, and it was just baby powder. But you still have a charge with distribution intent to distribute.
Right. And now you're out of a job. Now you're gonna really have to go out there and distribute some drugs. Like,
true. Now, if you really want to look something, you'll find that book in the back of my closet that says how to make.
Yeah, I'm out of a job
because of all of this that happened.
Right. It's just crazy, and nothing is in our favor. We don't have the complexion for protection, and it's sad.
No, listen. We as a group, people are going to hate us. You can't legislate hate. What you can do is make sure that you are building up a community strong enough to protect itself. You know, we're going to have to push out people who are go along to get along people. I'm sorry. You know, everyone that's this isn't that bad. No, those people have to be removed from the levers of influence and power. And the only way to do that is to control your dollar. When these people want to get out there and speak, especially, I hate to do this, but a lot of these prominent clergy people, whenever the situation, they always go, well, we spoke to the black leaders, and they're either some rapper, some singer, or some preacher. It's never a business owner. It's never an expert in anything. It's always one of these celebrities or influence type of people.
Right.
And
With
those
money.
people have to be shouted down
Don't have
immediately.
a background in any of that stuff. Like I consider they had a background there, maybe some experience, but more likely they don't.
No, they go with whoever's popular because they think that's how you speak to black people.
Right. And it is
Right.
not.
Because again, like I said, the idea of placing drugs on somebody is so common that we think it's a joke. So
Right.
they think it's a joke too. So they play along with the joke, or we play along with the joke. And the only one that's not really playing is them.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones playing because we are too busy going, oh yeah, it's okay. Definitely. You should go talk to Beyonce about, black affairs. Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Like no
That's
funny.
definitely
Like
Oh,
what did she really
I
know? She
can't
knows
talk
black
to
business. She know how to
Beyonce.
handle business, but she don't know about the inner city
Yeah,
crime. She don't know about stuff like that. She just don't know. Sorry.
yeah, of course. Go talk to them. Go talk to Cardi
That is not
B or
our leader. That is not our leader.
yeah, that's the black
Wow.
leader. Yeah.
Right.
I
Or some
can't talk to
pastor.
Beyonce, no Cardi B, because I don't have the money. So I guess
Right.
I'll be screwed.
Yeah.
I guess I'll be screwed. So I mean,
Yeah. But again, that leads to a lot of higher sentencing. I think this opioid epidemic, and this is gonna sound really harsh when I say this, but I think it's been an eye-opening thing for most people because now you get to see the difference in treatment for these folks who are stuck on these opioids versus those who are stuck on narcotics.
Right.
Because they're not trying to put people who sell pills in jail for as long as people who sell powdered cocaine.
Mm.
They're not going to jail for the same amount of time.
yeah.
But remember, right? Remember, we've been had a drug crisis in our cities, in our neighborhoods, and forever. But as soon as it hit the white neighborhoods and the prominent people, now it's an opioid crisis. They're having these marches and these parents who lost children because they OD'd. That's been happening over here. What was our help at? What was the What was the legislation for us at? What was any of this stuff at? What was it? Until it started affecting them.
Yeah, of course. It's always been a farce. With the crack to cocaine sentencing, it was 30-1. Obama came in and he knocked it down to 16-1, which is crazy because that's still not 1-1.
Right.
You go to somewhere like the infamous, and you guys can Google this. I'm pretty sure you've seen clips or you've heard of it, but Kensington, Pennsylvania,
Oh,
Okay.
the junkie capital on planet Earth.
yes.
It is an open air market of drug abusers.
Yeah.
And they don't
All
look
over the place.
like us. They're just out there nodding off in the streets.
They're taking tranquilizers.
Right. Right.
Tranquilizers, pills, hard narcotic drugs, anything they can get their hands on to get high. And it's an open air situation out there.
It's like zombie land out there.
Yeah. And they're just, they're literally walking around like zombies. And all people do is film and go, oh, wow, look at these people. They're on drugs. If you had something like that on Stratford, the feds would have been knocking down everybody's door.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
It would have went so far. He wasn't even going that far away. Like no.
Yeah.
Yeah, let that happen on Clinton Ave somewhere, and you got a whole bunch of junkies just walking around nodding off. Nobody's going home tonight.
Bunch of time, like the Thriller video.
Yeah,
That's what it looks like too.
But again, that is white supremacy in our earlier leaders. And I wanted to bring this back to what you had said earlier, Ty. If Dr. King was around now, he would have denounced everybody after 1985.
I believe
he would have denounced everybody.
I agree.
And he'd have been an enemy to the mainstream media, and he would still be called a communist and a Marxist.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have supported Black Lives Matter. He wouldn't have supported Barack Obama. He would have supported a lot of people. Dr. King was a solid reparationist, and that automatically would have made him persona non grata.
Yeah, I agree.
Not about all of these. He would not be supporting Al Sharpton. I can say that much. FBI informant Al Sharpton.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
yes,
that's documented. Now he says that he only told. He says he only told on the mob, which I don't believe because you wouldn't have been around in the 1990s if you were out there telling on the mob.
On the
no,
mob.
absolutely not. They got you. You got got. You'd have
Definitely.
been out here in the water somewhere.
Swimming
Exactly.
with the fishes.
Sleeping with the fishes.
Right.
Yes. So while he sits up there in his fancy suits, and all that lipo and everything, that
Right. A
man
little weight loss surgery.
he put a lot of people in jail to get to MSNBC.
Hmm.
I agree.
That's why he ain't too mad about the '94 crime bill.
No.
That's why he supported Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Because he got paid.
Yep. At the end of the day,
Really?
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Never knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. These are things
So
that come out that are just mentioned in the middle of a news cycle, and you don't really hear about it again.
so does that go back to is it like I won't say involving, but does that go back to like Martin Luther King being assassinated? Malcolm X being assassinated? Does it go
I
like
don't know. I mean, the King family did successfully sue the U.S. government for the assassination of Dr. King.
mm,
Successfully. That's the word right there.
right. So something happened.
Something
Wow.
happened. Something happened.
Yeah.
But they were able to successfully sue the courts. I mean, we don't talk about. I mean, what was it? Dr. King's mother who was assassinated like shortly after.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that disturbed me. I read about that.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't wait then? Somebody died in a pool, I believe. Then somebody was assassinated at church, I believe, something like that. How did that go?
That was Dr. King's mother.
But then was it something about a brother too? Wasn't it about a brother or somebody in?
I think his brother got assassinated first. Right?
It's something about a brother.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe his brother was assassinated first.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
But family successfully sued. I don't know how much money they were awarded. I know there was no justice.
No.
Yeah.
There's never justice with it.
No, when somebody dies, it's never that. The same thing with the Malcolm X thing. It's like if you look at the documentary, they said FBI was involved. Somebody from Newark was involved.
Yeah.
People are home, by the way. They came home a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they're just sitting like, oh, now I wonder where they at. I wonder.
I know the mosque here in Newark denounced them and said they had nothing to do with it, and I kind of believe them.
Right.
I mean, it's
you can't hold one person accountable for somebody else's actions because it's probably that one person or two people who had something to do with that. So you always hit a person who's a traitor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got somebody in the wrong. You put them in a tight enough squeeze. Weak people will fold. Especially if you got something on them. Oh, you can go to jail for the rest of your life. Oh, how do I get out of that? You go to Audubon Ballroom. You go there at this date. You go handle your business. We're not gonna let them kill you.
No.
So it's listen, it's a rough game, and it's a never-ending war. We are literally people behind enemy lines. We built this country, and we have a never-ending fight on our hands. It's something that's been
right. And the crazy part is, it's for nothing. It's for absolutely nothing because the color of our skin. It's crazy. I'm just tired.
I think it's for something. It's for the future. We're not fighting for there's a large push for reparations now, larger than it's probably ever been since Reconstruction. Yeah. And that's because we are trying to insulate our people, those who are descendants of American slaves, from the onslaught of uncontrolled immigration, white supremacy, these different groups. Everybody's trying to take a shot. The hilarious removal of affirmative action, and that debacle that's already blown up in them people's face. For another day,
right?
It's a never-ending battle, and we are at a very pivotal time in history. And 40, 50, 60, 70 years from now, they're going to look back at this generation and ask, what did you do? Did you prepare your children for the future?
Right.
So we have that beautiful opportunity, and 50 years from after that, they'll ask the generation after us, did you prepare your children for the future?
Right.
And the past isn't going to look as rosy as it once does. We're going to grow out of eventually the first Black person who did this, the first Black that. We'll get tired, and it's like, well, you just putting, untrustworthy faces in high places.
Yeah.
and these people, and that's always been the beauty of the internet, is that it democratized the town square. So now all information is out there, and there's always there's a receipt of something somewhere.
Yep.
So you just have to be willing to look, don't fall for the nonsense. And that's how you help to fight for yourself, and how you help to keep your children and your children's children out of the trap of being stuck in these ridiculously long sentences, because now you have more information than they did.
Right.
Right.
We have things that our parents never dreamed of, and our grandchildren will have things that we never dreamed of. But it's a never-ending fight. You have to be willing to, stand on business.
Right.
And we have to be willing. We have to stand on business like our feet are belted to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
We can't move on this. And like I said, I'm so proud of this younger generation, because they're the ones that are pushing these things. And when we're long gone, it's going to be, it's going to be their work that is going to be, the pride of our people going forward.
Right.
Make us proud, babies.
Right.
Make us proud.
Yeah, and they will. They're the ones that are, they're calling out the disparaging sentences between, these pills and hard narcotics, and the ones that are going to stand up and say, no, you did wrong.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable.
For this. You cannot continue to punish my people the way you've been doing so.
Right.
Or the aliens to come. Who knows?
Aliens, always been up on aliens, and I'm
still waiting for them.
Yes,
right.
Wouldn't it be something they come and they the same? I swear, I give up.
Yeah,
they'd be like, all the black people up against the wall. You be like, mother.
Right.
We can't win.
The alien ship comes down, and it's George Washington and Christopher Columbus. It's like, come on.
Like,
oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Like, come on, that's some nonsense.
No, it'd be different this time. It'd be different this time. We had something for them this time.
Yeah, right. We prepared now.
Right.
It ain't about the smallpox us, buddy.
Right. With that little blanket of yours. Your little blanket.
Yeah, I got my snuggie. I'm good. I don't need your bullshit.
Right. Right.
Like, I know a dentist, so they can fix them up for you real good.
Right, real quick, because I heard about some
teeth up.
Those ain't even yours. Matter of fact, give us them back. Hand them back.
Not to sound too bad, but I could just remove them for them if you needed to. Like,
right. I mean,
I got two.
Right. I get you real right.
Yeah, I'll use my hands. I got these.
Right, how you deserve. I got some pliers. I got some pliers for your hammer.
Oh God. Not pliers, not pliers. Oh my God. Then we talk about the mafia earlier. Here she is with her pliers. She about to go style. He gonna be swimming with the fishes with no teeth.
Right, and he should be.
You don't get talking. You
don't chop down that apple tree right then and there.
Right. 4 scores and a set of teeth ago.
Thank you for joining us again. We are the Grown Up Group. Vic, Jazz, Ty, and I'm Kira. Thank you, and subscribe, love, and peace, and thank you.
All right.
Hi.